Okay, lovely to see you all. I'm Mahana. I've been at Deliveroo for just over 8 years now, and I look after what we call data and science. If you want to know why it's data and science and not data science, maybe come and grab me later, because that's a longer talk than 15 minutes. But yeah, so in my time here, we've seen it grow from about 10 people when I joined about 8 years ago to about 200 people, or more than 200 people now. So we've had to do a lot of hiring, a lot of retaining people, a lot of community building, a lot of kind of having people leave and then come back again because they realize they like working here. So I wanted to share maybe my top learning from that time and building that team. So what is the hardest thing in data science? What is the hardest thing you need to do as a data scientist? So all of us are probably going to have different opinions about that. But over my time here, I've developed a really strong opinion about what I think the hardest thing is as a data scientist. It might not be what you expect. It's making sure you're actually solving the business problem. Are you actually benefiting the business? Are you doing the thing that is going to be considered important when the business has to make cuts? So you're not just building something that's fancy, that looks good in a published paper, but it's not delivering business value. And are you doing it in the simplest possible way? So I'm going to talk through 2 examples where this might be counterintuitive. So the first example is near and dear to my heart. So when I was in IC, many years ago now, I built recommender systems. I've done this a bunch of different companies, and not quite as up to date with the current literature now as I was back in the day. But some of you may recognize some of these different measures of success with recommender systems as pretty standard. So mean reciprocal rank, precision recall at K. So it's essentially when the person ordered something, was it high up in the list? That's pretty straightforward. Most of you will probably know the Netflix challenge back in the day. That was certainly when I was kind of getting into the industry, what everyone was talking about. Is this the right approach for recommender systems and ranking? Is it actually solving the business problem? So I'm going to talk about 2 different domains to show that this is more of a kind of domain-wide thing across different companies, not just something for Deliveroo. So at Deliveroo, our business problem, our mission is to bring the neighborhood to your door. So all of the different merchants in your local neighborhood, we want you to be able to order from them. I'm going to talk about also news organizations, completely different sector that I've worked in the past, but just broadly as a sector, they also have recommender systems. What is their mission? I mean, it probably varies depending on the news organization, but generally, what's going on in the news? What should I be interested in at the moment? So how should recommender systems work? And what would happen if we applied just a pure kind of mean reciprocal rank recommender system to these things? So at Deliveroo, our goal was not to get someone to reorder the same thing every 3 weeks. In the news, it's not to get people to keep watching cat videos, right? It's not to keep doing the thing you've always been doing. And if you were just using the standard recommender systems metrics, you would be reinforcing previous behavior, which is actually not that useful in many cases. Sometimes it is, right? But sometimes it isn't. So what can we look at instead? What can we solve the business problem? And that's a harder thing. I mean, one of the reasons that people use the standard recommender systems metrics is because they're easy and you can measure them offline and you can measure them with a fixed data set. Looking at the longer term impact of these things is obviously super hard. I mean, what is the retention in 5 years of this recommender system versus that recommender system? Don't know. We can kind of guess, probably going to be wrong. Are there leading indicators to it? Yeah, so we can look at the longer term, we can look at retention. And, one, just as a starting point, and maybe in some of the discussions later, people might have other ideas, but one that's really interesting for me is diversity. So are we recommending a diversity of content? So for Deliveroo, are we showing grocers? Are we showing flower shops? Are we showing expensive Indian restaurants? Are we showing cheap sushi restaurants? Are we showing a bunch of different stuff? And for me, that's a really important leading indicator to longer term retention. So yeah, there's no great perfect answer to this, but for me, it's really important to think what is the thing that's right for the business in the long term, and it's not just using the standard methods in the literature. Another example. So account managers at Deliveroo are the people who partner with our various partners. So for example, your local restaurant on the street next to you, or a big global brand, and they partner with them to help them get the most out of Deliveroo, how they can optimize their menus and serve their customers better. So how can we make these account managers more effective? Data scientist hat on. Should I build a model for this? Should I get all the features I can have about account managers? Should I get how many partners they're partnering with? How long they've been at Deliveroo, how old they are, all these factors of account managers, build a model, predict effectiveness, which is some made-up score, and that's my way to improve their effectiveness. Would we do that? No, that sounds really silly, obviously. So what I did, we have a program where people from any of our teams can walk around with our various account management teams and go and talk to our partners. So a couple of months ago, I walked around an area of London and spoke to a whole ton of restaurant partners, which was fascinating. I love getting to know our business and the people kind of day-to-day making our business run closer. What it turned out they actually needed was when they're walking around, they don't have a great idea of how the partner is performing and how many orders they've had, how long they've been on delivery for, what problems they're having, whether they're having operational issues in the kitchen. And they had access to a ton of different dashboards, but they had confusing, contradictory information, and they were really hard to scroll through on a small phone screen that, different models of phone and so on. So what they needed was a really clear, simple dashboard that would show the performance of that partner over time with the key things that partner would care about so they can walk into that conversation. If they're going down High Street and speaking to 10 partners in an hour, they want to be able to do that quickly. So they don't need a fancy model, they need a really clear, simple dashboard. So that's the business problem. So to kind of round all this out, so I've spoken a lot about what I think makes a great data scientist, but how do you assess them? How do you hire these people? It's hard, of course. The way I think about it, and the way I think about it in interview processes specifically, is you should be giving them real business problems. You should be seeing how they approach those clear business problems. And there's a few kind of telltale signs that I kind of assess when I'm giving business problems to potential data science candidates. So number one, and perhaps the most important thing for me, is can they communicate really clearly and succinctly? Can you understand what they're actually saying? So if they're working with our business partners across the kind of the wider business, if they can't understand your data scientist, you can't even work out if it's the right business problem to be solving or anything. So can they communicate really clearly, particularly about really complex technical things? Do they focus on impact? So when you're giving them an unseen problem from your company or a made-up problem, do they really think about the business impact, or do they think about a fancy model that they read about in a paper and want to try, or should we just get ChatGPT to do it? Do they focus on what will benefit the business, and do they bias for simplicity? Do they have something that's explainable to the business that you can understand? And then, when you've got a simple thing in place, maybe we add complexity, maybe we add sophistication, but we start with something simple. And finally, this is one that's very dear to my heart as well. Do they hide behind technical complexity? Can you kind of can they assess when someone's talking in kind of complex technical language that doesn't actually make any sense? Do they have enough technical skills to do that? Because you might have someone who's great at all these first things, and they're probably perhaps more of a kind of a business-focused data science, but they maybe don't have the technical skills. So I think technical skills are, of course, important for building technical things, but they're also important for cutting through kind of technical smoke and mirrors. So anyway, I think I'm probably nearly at time here. We're going to have breakout sessions to discuss some of this soon, but I want to just finish by saying we're hiring managers, we're hiring ICs. Come and work for us, please. Great to see you all. We'll be chatting soon. Thank you.